DeSanto Propane is 4 generations strong as a trustworthy family-owned business with unmatched customer service. Go online at DeSantoPropane.com for more info or call toll-free at 1-800-752-4574. Since 1937, the difference has been DeSanto Propane.
Do you want to know what's happening in the Finger Lakes? We do too. We're going in depth with decision makers in the heart of upstate New York to get the answers you need. From the team of FingerLakes1.com, this is Inside the FLX.
Welcome back to Inside the FLX. It is time for our monthly chat with Chris Lajewski from the Montezuma Audubon Center up in Wayne County. Chris, summer is here, and so too are the black tern survey results. Let's start there. Exciting stuff. A couple weeks ago, you guys finished that up. What can you tell us about it?
That's right. Back on June 14th, several staff and volunteers from across the Montezuma Wetlands Complex fanned out into the marshes of the refuge as well as the state land up in Savannah. And I'm really proud to report that we found 124 black terns all across the wetlands complex. Some of these birds we saw in marshes for the very first time, which is exciting and a sign that habitat restoration and conservation does work. And if you lay out the red carpet for birds, they come and they find it and they utilize these excellent habitats that we have all around Montezuma. Now, 124 birds doesn't sound like a lot, and it's not a tremendous number. However, when you look back at where we were in the late 1980s, when there were no black terns anywhere in the Montezuma Wetlands Complex, that's a great success back just a few weeks ago. So what happened is, actually going back even further, prior to the early 80s, our records indicate that there were well over 100 black terns regularly across the Montezuma Wetlands Complex. And then due to habitat loss and primarily from invasive species like the purple loosestrife plant choking out marshes all around Montezuma, the black tern habitat dwindled. Mm-hmm. And finally, the black tern was extirpated from the National Wildlife Refuge and the state land in Savannah. But we've removed purple loosestrife and many other invasive species, and we manage these marshes now accurately and so that there's always ample habitat for rare birds like black tern. And now we have these opportunities where people can now come to the Montezuma Wetlands Complex and see this endangered bird species. One of the best places to see the black tern right now is along the Wildlife Drive down at the National Wildlife Refuge, a very popular destination for visitors, tourists, and year-round residents here in the Finger Lakes region. They can drive that 3.5-mile-long drive and regularly see these 2-foot-long, mostly black birds flying around, feeding, and
2 feet.
Chicks. Yeah, about 2 foot long wingspan. 2 foot. They're mostly black, but the tail is and the wings are more of a silvery gray color, but very unique. They very graceful flyers over the marshes all around Montezuma now.
It seems like every 2 or 3 months, I guess, we're talking about a survey or surveys that you guys are doing out there. One of the things that I think a lot of people might be lost on them is how the timing. How does the timing work for these? Like, are they done at certain times annually? Mm-hmm. And how are those windows selected for you guys?
Yeah. So black tern survey, for example, we are just now getting into the breeding season.
Okay.
And these species are only with us for a short period of time. Black terns return to Montezuma in May, early to mid-May. They have returned, but it takes them a few weeks to set up their territories, find a mate, build the nest, and lay eggs. So no point in doing a survey in April when
sure.
the black tern's not here. And we wait until those pair bonds have been made and the nest sites have been selected, and then we go into these marshes and looking for them. Similar situation to the bald eagle. Bald eagles nest during the winter months. Mm-hmm. The rare species that actually nest during a cold, harsh time of year. So we hold off on monitoring bald eagles across Montezuma until early to mid-January. And again, same situation. We have staff and volunteers fanning out all across Montezuma looking for our national bird. So yes, there's a rhyme and a reason for it.
And it's all sort of aimed at estimating roughly when you guys think there's going to be the most potential to see the greatest number of them out there.
That's right, and a similar situation to the waterfowl. We want to know that Montezuma continues to be an important stopover site for millions of ducks, geese, and swans during their spring migration. Hence, during the month of March, we are out there in the marshes counting not only the number of individual birds, but the diversity of species.
Yeah, whether it's the surveys you guys are doing, whether it's the conservation work that your team is doing, it all costs money, especially the education side of things. Fundraiser, golf tournament, silent auction, all the things happened this past month. Tell us a little bit about how it all went.
We had a great, successful annual benefit once again back on June 10th. We held it at the Wayne Hills Country Club, so we had a nice day of golf. We also had great food with a lunch and a dinner and cocktails and hors d'oeuvres. 75 participants were there with us. Great support from our volunteers as well as the staff of the Audubon Center and our Onondaga Lake Conservation Corps program. And through all the activities, the online auction, the sponsorships, the registrations, we raised nearly $16,000 for bird conservation work at Montezuma as well as over at our Onondaga Lake project. People love birds. People love getting involved in conservation work and supporting initiatives that have positive impact not only on birds and the places they need, but also for people. You know, we share common characteristics with birds. We all need fresh air, clean water, and a place to call home. And so by protecting bird habitat, we're protecting habitat that we all need in order to survive. So really happy with how the event turned out. And now because of this success, we're going to be able to do more bird conservation work for species like black tern.
Absolutely. Speaking of, no reason to not flash the opportunity to give still. I say this usually in December and January too, because you guys do a little fundraising around then as well. Any time of year, you guys can always use the extra money. If someone wants to give back, on your website, there's a little button, if I recall correctly, that folks can tap and donate whatever they'd like, correct?
That's right, and every little bit helps. We are a nonprofit organization affiliated with National Audubon Society. We are not a government agency. We rely on the generous support of our donors and sponsors all throughout the year. And if folks want to get involved in our work, they can go to our website, montezuma.audubon.org, click on Support Our Work, and give whatever you can.
Yeah. Time for our species spotlight. We're going to talk about a couple birds, but first, the one you're bringing to the table, which is the American goldfinch. I think I've seen like a dozen of these just in the last 3 or 4 nights. We're entering peak goldfinch season, right?
That's right, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to bring this up. It is a common bird for us during this time of year, very brightly colored, yellow, almost gold color, especially those males, brilliant yellow with the black cap right on the forehead there, really stands out. They are a feeder bird, so if you have black oil sunflower seed or thistle seed, this beautiful yellow bird with the black wings and white wing bars can be found in your backyard, your front yard, or in your balcony. And it's just a melodious bird, very chattery type call, and it flies with this, I like to call it a roller coaster flight. It's up and down and chittering and chattering as it's flying around backyards, front yards, shrubland, and grassland habitats as well. You're probably not going to find them in the interior of a forested ecosystem, though. And this time of year, they're very active. They're very melodious because they are approaching their breeding season. They are kind of a later nesting songbird compared to other songbirds that we have like American robin and northern cardinal, which have already nested. So the American goldfinch is going to nest in kind of a shrubby habitat. They're going to make their nests out of fine grasses and material that they find out in the habitat. And then the female is going to incubate these eggs. The male goes off and brings the female food regularly, and it could be seeds, it could be insects as well. And then once the eggs hatch, then both parents will take care of feeding the young. They are a year-round species for us, so if you have feeders up, even during the winter months, there's a good chance that you're going to find American goldfinch.
Are some of them less vibrant than like the one we had pictured up there? Because I have a few of those that I've seen in the last week or so. Almost seem to be a bit mixed, like the coloring is sort of spotted a little bit or just not quite full across the entire bird. What's up with that?
You were probably seeing the female,
Okay.
which is more of a drab yellow color compared to the male bright gold, bright yellow. The chicks, once they hatch and fledge by late summer, they're going to look very much like an adult female, kind of a drab yellow.
Okay.
And even the males, come late fall into the winter, their plumage is going to change.
Oh, really?
They're going to look very similar to an adult female does now. And then come next spring, early summer, then even the adult males are going to gain their breeding plumage back. They're going to be brightly colored once again.
Do they stick around or do they head south when the weather starts to get a little here?
They're a year-round resident for us. They're hardy birds. They can be found at feeders even during the harshest of winters. There are birds that go even further north from us. They're going to go up towards Hudson Bay area during the breeding season, but they don't stay there during the winter months. They're going to head back down to at least the Finger Lakes region. Some may even go down to the Mid-Atlantic for the winter.
All right, so I have got the common grackle. And so I heard that and saw that bird for the first time about 2 weeks ago now, and I haven't been able to get its sound out of my head since. It just sounds a little different, caught my ear. Tell us a little bit about that bird.
Yeah, it's a fairly large songbird compared to, say, American goldfinch, probably about twice the size of American goldfinch. But the plumage of common grackle is noticeably different. It's almost entirely black. Now, if the sun is shining on these black feathers, and you may see this when next time you see your common grackle friend, the way the sunlight reflects off these feathers, it may even notice some metallic purple or green colors. There you go. There's a great example of an adult common grackle. That large yellow eye really stands out as well. Long beak, relatively long beak for the size of the body, and then that long tail really extends out from the body as well. Again, this is a bird that can be found here in the Finger Lakes region throughout the year. They generally, though, do migrate south, at least to the Mid-Atlantic states, and I remember this past March seeing thousands of common grackles in a flock, thousands coming through Seneca Falls during their migration. Now they're going to flock up with red-winged blackbirds, European starlings, and some other larger dark birds. But common grackle, fun bird, pretty melodious. They're going to nest in trees, in urban areas as well as out in wild natural areas like the Montezuma Wetlands Complex.
Yeah. Is this the kind of bird that would blend in unless the sunlight was hitting it just right and make most people just sort of passerby look at it and say, oh, that's just a blackbird, and not think much more about it? Because for as common as it seems, when I saw it last week for the first time, it was perched up on a garage that's near our house, and I said it almost looked like paint had been dumped on top of the bird, because the sun was hitting it, and it looked exactly like that picture does. It didn't look hardly like a pure blackbird at all. But I guess if the sun weren't hitting it, could it just blend in with a lot of other blackbirds and
Sure, it
not
could
know?
look just like a red-winged blackbird if the red-winged blackbird isn't showing off that red patch on the wings. It could very well look like a red-winged blackbird. And also this time of year with foliage out on the trees and the sun generally shining most days this time of year, there's a lot of dark patches in the forest canopy. So it may even be challenging to find this common grackle, but they are busy right now. They're busy feeding themselves. They're busy feeding chicks as well, and it's a fun bird. I think it's a fun bird. I love all birds, of course. Some people, don't appreciate the common grackle because they think that they eat all the bird seed out of their feeder.
Oh.
And, well, they will eat some bird seed, but probably not all of it. And, and so just having birds around, I think, brings joy to our lives. You're taking note of them, and you can find some unique characteristics, like when that sun shines on common grackle and see purple and green plumes.
Yeah, all birds are good birds. You need volunteers, and this is an annual conversation we end up having. It is water chestnut season, or I should say water chestnut removal season.
That's right.
Talk to us a little bit about that, and how many volunteers is a good number of volunteers for an event like this?
Yeah, we had one of these water chestnut removal events just last week, and proud to say that we had about 20 volunteers and staff all working together to remove this invasive species in our waterways, the water chestnut. Now, this species of water chestnut is not the same one that you can find at your local Chinese restaurant or on the shelves at a supermarket. It's an entirely different species, really not edible.
Yeah.
And so we need to remove it because it can choke out marshes and ponds and lakes and rivers, not only here in the Finger Lakes region and Montezuma Wetlands Complex, but it is now found throughout the Northeast United States and the Mid-Atlantic states. Now, this species of plant, it's an aquatic plant. It was brought over here into New York State around the late 1800s, accidentally released out into some waterways. And, well, because it's an invasive species, the insects and disease that keep it in check over in Europe and Asia are not found here. And so it can reproduce and spread indiscriminately. And here we are 150 years later, and it's in many of our waterways all across the Finger Lakes. So we're looking for volunteers coming up here next week. It's July 10th. We're going to be out there all morning up at the northern end of the Montezuma Wetlands Complex on the Seneca River, where we've been battling water chestnut now for about a decade. And every year we go back to this one spot, because if we even let it go a year, then we end up with 10 times the amount of water chestnut that we had just a few years prior. So it's really quite a simple activity, and it's a very fun activity to do during the summertime. We're in canoes. We will provide the personal flotation devices and the paddles and the training on identifying water chestnut. So this is good for a novice person, a family, an experienced individual who's regularly paddling around or birding around Montezuma. And so we spend about 3 hours removing water chestnut. Every time we're out, we remove about 1,000 pounds of this invasive floating plant. Pretty easy to do. It's just simply identifying the plant, and it's really easy to find. It floats right on the surface of the water. Yeah. Now, the stem and the roots, of course, are down under the surface, but the leaves, the rosette of leaves, float right on the surface. Sometimes you can find that small white flower that develops this time of year as well. And that white flower is what is going to end up producing those nutlets, which are spiky as we go into August, not right now. Yeah. So now is the time to get out and remove water chestnut, and that's why we're looking for 12, 2 dozen or more volunteers help us remove the plant. It's important to do because when this plant dies, like all vegetation, when a plant dies, it will absorb oxygen out of the water. That oxygen is critical for fish, aquatic insects, and other critters to survive. And if we don't have the oxygen in the water, then we don't have the food source for the entire food chain, and that disrupts the food chain. So you end up with these solid mats of water chestnut and devastating effects, not only for birds and the wildlife, but also for people too. It makes it almost impossible to paddle through. Forget about fishing. Yeah. Swimming is out of the question as well. So we're looking for volunteers, and great way to get involved is going to our website, montezuma.audubon.org. We have a volunteer section of all our events coming up. Folks can register right there.
And we link to it on the website as well, on fingerlakes1.com, and in the show notes as well. About that, you mentioned that if you take a year off, it tends to really aggressively spread. Is that just the natural life cycle? Is the natural life cycle of this stuff just very quick, so it can very quickly sort of take over and make a mess of things?
Yeah. It's an annual plant, meaning it doesn't come up from the roots year after year after year. So it reproduces via those sharp nutlets. And the issue with the nutlets, though, is that it can remain viable in the water or down in the muck of a marsh for up to 10 years.
Oh my God.
And just waiting for the perfect conditions to sprout a stem and grow those leaves and then make more flowers and nutlets. So that's why we have to stay on it, go after it year after year after year. And you know, it's one of our favorite activities to do, really, because you're getting a little bit wet, yes, but it's summertime and it's generally pretty warm out there. And then after the morning of work, everyone's welcome to come back to the Audubon Center, and we provide lunch. And the Friends of the Montezuma Wetlands Complex provides that lunch for all of our volunteers.
Speaking of opportunities to get in the water, maybe get splashed with a little water in the way there, kayaking. There's opportunities to kayak. Talk to us about those.
Yeah, we're really happy to partner with New York State Canal Corporation again this summer and offer free on the canals kayaking adventures. We're going to be doing these every Friday and Saturday starting on July 6th, and that's coming right up here this weekend, and going right on through the month of August, August 31st. These are great opportunities for novice paddlers. These are going to be about 2 hours in duration. We're going to be providing a lot of training on what it means to be a kayaker, how to handle a boat, how to paddle properly, even before we get into the boats and go out onto the water. So this is a great opportunity for maybe a family who's new to paddling or they've never tried paddling before. We've got the solo kayaks, again, all the gear that's necessary, and we're going to provide the training. We launch from Rivers Crossing Campground and Marina, which is just north of Seneca Falls here on Route 89. Really proud to partner with those great folks again, and go out into the Clyde River a little ways, and it'll just be a down and back situation. So maybe we're going to go 1 mile total, but it's great opportunities here. And again, register on the website. They're going to sell out. They always do. So good opportunities to see bald eagles, osprey, and many of our other birds that are with us this time of year.
Yeah, can't recommend it enough. It's a workout. Even if you're just going a mile, you will feel good after you get done doing it. Moth Night. We have Moth Night coming up this weekend, July 6th, if I recall correctly off the list you sent me. What's going on there?
That's right. It's a great program, and it's a really unique program. We bring one of our friends in from Cornell University, and she's Dr. Mina, and Dr. Mina is going to come in and talk about all things moths. There are so many moth species in the Finger Lakes region. We are certainly not experts in moths, but Dr. Mina is, and so she'll come in, give a nice presentation about what moths are, a bit about the diversity of species that we have in the Finger Lakes, and then after that indoor presentation, we're going to set up equipment outside that will attract moths to the black light that we'll have out there, and we'll have these white sheets that will hang up, and the moths will come and they're attracted to that, and then folks are going to be able to see these up close and learn more about them and just see the great diversity of moths that we have. This is a really unique program because not only do we have all that, we have an opportunity for people to camp out at Montezuma Audubon Center, which is cool. A unique situation. The general public is not typically permitted to camp on site, but when you come for a special program like this, you are allowed to. So again, registration is required. You can find it on our website under programs and events button there. Yeah, coming up this Saturday night.
Learn about moths. Why not? Hey, Chris, thanks for coming in today.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, that's going to do it for this edition of Inside the FLX. We have links in the show notes and on fingerlakes1.com for all the things Chris and I talked about today. New episodes of Inside the FLX drop every Monday, so subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get shows like this one. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.